Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another week of exploring the Parsha. I'd like tonight to try to do a little bit of the Parsha and segue into the holiday of Hanukkah, which is next Wednesday night. We have the Makor Chaim Hanukkah party, so we won't be able to have a shir. So we have to touch upon Hanukkah this evening. So there's a very famous Rashi in the beginning of this week's Parsha, which speaks about the word Vayeshev. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz Migore Avi be'eretz Canaan. And Yaakov was Vayeshev, he was residing. He was resting, so to speak, in Eretz Migore Avi, in the land of his father's dwelling places, be'eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan. And Rashi, based on the Midrash, asks, what is this language of Vayeshev that Yaakov was dwelling in this area, that he was resting in this place? And Rashi writes like this: Vayeshev, Bikesh Yaakov Leishev v'Shalva. Yaakov Avinu desired to be Yeshev, just to relax, v'Shalva, in tranquility. We're talking about a man who's had the hardest 35 years that any of the Avos, any of the forefathers have had. He went from running away from his brother, Esav. He ends up 14 years in the yeshiva, the Shem Ve'ever, learning day and night. He doesn't sleep in a bed for all those years. Then he goes to the house of Lavan, Harasha, the wicked father-in-law. 7 years for Leah, 7 years for Rachel, 7 years taking care of the sheep. Then he has his showdown with Esav. So he's gone through a lot. He's had a lot of difficulties, more than any of the other forefathers that we have. And so after all those 35 years of struggles, of difficulties, of hardships, of pain, of everything in between, so the Midrash writes over here, Bikesh Yaakov Leishev v'Shalva. He just wants to chill out a little bit. He wants to relax. It's been a long run, 35 years. Let the man have a break. Says the Midrash, the way according as Rashi quotes, suddenly the tragedies over here of Yosef Atzadik was Kaifetz jumped on top of him, and the whole ordeal that Yosef gets thrown into the pit, sold down as a slave into Mitzrayim, all of that happens because Yaakov Avinu wants you to be able to have a little bit of peace and tranquility. As Rashi continues and he writes, Tzadikim mevakshim leisha b'shalva. The tzadikim, they want to have a little bit of respite and peace. Omar Kodesh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, L'dayon l'tzadikim Hashem mesukim lem lo'elam haba. It's not enough what they have waiting for them in the world to come. Elishim mevakshim leisha b'shalva b'olam hazeh. They also want to have a good in this world too. How could such a thing be? Says Rashi, so that what ended up happening, Yosef, this whole ordeal with Yosef Atzadik ends up jumping upon him, and Yaakov Avinu now goes for the next dozens of years. There's not an ounce of respite or peace and quiet and tranquility that he's going to have. So the Mefarshim ask over here, what do you think that Yaakov Avinu was asking for? As Rav Wolber writes, you think that he wanted to just lay back on the lounge chair by the pool and smoke a cigar while he has his beer, his martini in the other hand? What kind of leisha, what kind of tranquility was Yaakov Avinu asking for? He didn't want to chill out in the cigar lounge. He didn't want to have a little schnapps on a Shabbos afternoon just to make himself a bit happy. He wasn't looking for a vacation to Hawaii with the sand going between his toes. That's not what Yaakov was asking for. What was he asking for? So as Rav Wolber writes, and his Rabbi Yerucham writes, Yaakov Avinu said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's been 35 years since I had a normal day in my life. 35 years I couldn't just sit with a Shender and the Gemara and learn without anything else in my mind, peace of mind, free of all the troubles that were there. I'm only asking for one thing, Rabbi Shalom. Allow me just to have a little bit of time to myself, to be able to gather my thoughts, to be able to collect myself, to get my koiches, my strength back, my energies back. Let me sit, let me learn, let me enjoy myself. That's all that I'm asking for. He's not asking for anything grand. He's not asking for an all-paid vacation to the moon. He's not asking for any of that. He's asking for some respite from all of the lachats, all of the pressures that he had on him for all these years, so he should be able to commune in a better way with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what he wanted. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, chutzpah, is that what you're asking for? Hashem knows exactly what you're asking for. Is that what you're asking for? You want to be able to learn without pressure? You want to be able to daven without anything bothering you when in the middle of your thoughts? You want to be able to do a chesed without feeling the Yitzhar pushing you in the opposite direction, telling you somebody else will do the chesed, somebody else will bring the box of paper into. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. Should know that I've told this over many times, but often the sparklets guy leaves the water bottles outside. I'm always the first one to know about it because I'm here, but I always leave them there because I just want to see Mark that he brings them in. Because nobody else does, so at least I know that Mark says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, tzaddikim must understand that this world itself is not the world in which they're supposed to get all of their comfort and all of their joy and all of their pleasure and all of their rest and peace. That's coming in the world to come. This is the world where shalva, where tranquility is not so much in the dialogue, it's not so much in our vernacular. Because as we've learned throughout all of these weeks, the triumph of the Avos HaKadoshim and that which they came to teach us in every single step of the way is that we came into this world to work very hard. The Ramchal writes in Mesilas Yesharim, in his classical words, that a person must understand that the world itself was not given to us for this world, for these pleasures, for everything that we have in front of us. The whole world is just a vehicle in order to bring us into the world to come. And he brings down many Maimari Chazal, many statements of the sages that attest to this. For example, he writes, Hayoim la'aseisam. Today is the day la'aseisam to do, ulamachar tomorrow, which means in the world to come, l'kabel schar, you'll receive the reward. It's not about the reward in this world. Being peaceful and at ease is not the reward. Having nothing weighing down on your mind or on your shoulders is not the reward. It's that itself, as we've learned all these weeks, is the siva, is the cause that's going to help a person to grow. Or as he writes, Mishetarech be'erev Shabbos, somebody who works hard on Erev Shabbos, Oichel b'Shabbos, they will eat on Shabbos itself. So imagine if in your house, your wife thought that you're doing the shopping, and you thought that she's doing the shopping. Or let's say the food was already in the fridge, but you thought your wife is cooking, and your wife thought that you're cooking. You're going to go to the store to get the drinks, and she's going to go to the store to buy the challah. You're going to make the cholent, and she's going to roast the meat. She's going to peel the potatoes. You're going to end up getting the beans, all the different things that you think somebody else is doing. Comes Friday night, you sit down at the Shabbos table. There's no challah. There's no grape juice. There's no meat. There's no fish. There's nothing. If a person doesn't work hard on Friday afternoon, making all of the food that he has to for Shabbos, he has nothing to eat Friday night, and certainly not on Shabbos day. Say Chazal, this world is Erev Shabbos. And this world is the world in which we work. This is the world where we peel the potatoes, we work our fingers to the bone, we work our fingers to the grind. And if you do that, then on Shabbos itself, which is the day after this world, which is Olam Haba, that is where you will have something to eat and something to be able to enjoy. Without it, a person has nothing. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov, you think that all the troubles in your life were hurting you? You think that all the troubles in your life were making it difficult for you? You think that running away from your brother, dealing with a wicked father-in-law, fighting for 2 wives instead of just the 1 wife, you think that's what was a detriment to your avodas Hashem? It's the exact opposite. A person only thrives in the world of Avodas Hashem. They only thrive in the world of Torah. They only thrive in the world of Tefillah when they are in a matzah, when they're in a situation where they are pushed and they are being pressed in order to be able to bring out the best. And this perhaps is one of the segues in the Hanukkah, because we know the famous words in the Midrash that says that Klal Yisrael is doimel l'zeisim, we are compared to olives. And the Midrash asks, why are we compared to olives? And it answers because an olive, when you pull it off the tree, it's almost valueless. It's hard, it's green, it's bitter. There's not much you're going to get out of it. But when you take that olive and you put it into the press with all of the other olives, and you press down and down and down and down, you get shemen zayis zach, you get the first pressed virgin olive oil, pure as could be. Says the Midrash, that's Klal Yisrael. You take a yid, you pluck him off the tree so they should have a nice, peaceful, easy life. What do? You get nothing. You get something that's hard and that's bitter and doesn't understand what the meaning of life is all about. But when HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts him in the press and squeezes down on that person and adds a little bit of pressure over here and a little bit of headache over here and some aches and pains over here and some difficulties over here, and that person begins getting pressed, what's the reaction of the Jew? The reaction of the Jew is they begin to pull out from within inside of themselves all of the shemen zayich zach, all of the purest of the olive oil that is there. Many years ago, when my son Aile was turning bar mitzvah, we went to Eretz Yisrael for his bar mitzvah trip, and we were staying in the house of Rav Moshe Chodesh Zecher Tzadik Livracha, very prominent Rosh Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. His wife is I think it works out, she's like the great-granddaughter of Rav Itzla of Petersburg, who was one of the main disciples of Rav Yisrael Salakim. So we're talking about good yichus over here. And the Roshi would go to yeshiva every day, and the Rebbetzin would serve my son and I breakfast, which itself was a treat to have this venerable Rebbetzin serving us breakfast every day. And she would darshan while we're eating breakfast. She was a Balas Musar. So she would tell us over different Musar ideas, and she would start telling over stories of all of the great people that she had come in contact with. So her husband, Rav Moshe Chadash, had a father named Meir Chadash. Rav Meir Chadash was one of the main disciples of the altar of Slobodka. And she said, well, I want to tell you a story. She said, my father-in-law had an uncanny ability to be able to focus in on his learning, no matter what was going on around him. If once that he would open up a sefer, he would start looking inside, and there could be noise, there could be jackhammers, there could be a chasana going on with hundreds of people dancing and singing and music blasting. He would open up the sefer, like a laser focus. He would be inside that sefer in an instant like that. So she asked him once, how do you do that? How is it possible that when the whole world is making noise, you're able just to focus in like that in an instant, as if nothing else in the world is going on? So he said that when he was a young boy, he was about 13 years old, his parents sent him to go learn in the Slobodka yeshiva. And it was an unusual, like an anomaly that such a young boy would go to the yeshiva. When he got there, everybody was laughing. What's this little kid doing here? This was for the elite bachim of the yeshiva world in Europe. What is a 13-year-old boy doing over here? So he came to the yeshiva. He took his test with the altar, and he said, look, I see that you're very bright, you're a genius. I see that you'll be able to hold cup, so to speak, with the other boys in the yeshiva, but I have no place for you to stay. The dormitories are packed already. I have no place for you to stay. So if you go and you find a family that will take you in and let you sleep there, and they got to take care of your meals as well. I don't have meals for you either. You can stay in the yeshiva. So imagine you're a 13-year-old boy. You traveled all by yourself from your parents' hometown to over here, by foot, by horse, by carriage, by wagon. You're all by yourself. You don't know anybody. You're accepted, but you're not accepted. You're in the yeshiva, but you're not really in the yeshiva, unless you go find a place to stay. So little Meir Chadash goes around and he finds a family that's willing to take him. And the master of the house is a shoemaker. And where is his factory? Where is his office space? In the house itself. So he says he comes to the house and he's trying to sleep. And suddenly he hears bang, 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 bang. The man is banging away, making shoes. One nail after another, ripping off the leather, pounding out the leather, making the shoes. How do you sleep under those circumstances? He's trying to learn in the house. You can't be in the basement all day long. He's trying to learn in the house. Bang, 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 bang. Doesn't stop. All this noise doesn't stop. And he was getting very bothered. So he was a 13-year-old boy. Imagine a 13-year-old boy thinking like this today. He stops thinking about TikTok, maybe he'll think about this. So the 13-year-old boy thinks to himself, I have two choices. Either I'm going to let all this noise bother me, and I won't be able to learn, and I won't be able to rest, and I won't be able to sleep over here. Or I'm going to learn how not to hear the noise. And I'll be able to learn and focus. And when it's time to go to sleep, I'll go to sleep as well. So he said he trained his mind at 13 years old to be able to block out the noise that the shoemaker was making, pounding away at the leather, pounding away at the shoes all of the time, in order that he would be able to accomplish what he wanted to do, which was learning. And when it was time to rest, he'd be able to lay down and go to sleep, no matter how much noise was going on. So he told his daughter-in-law, because of those years, when I was a young boy, going through those troubles and that pain, and the hardship of being away from home and of being all by myself and not having any menuchas hanefesh, because of that, I became the person I became. The shemen zayis zoch. The oils that a person will go through, the squeezing that a HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, it brings out the best in the person, not the worst in the person. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Yaakov Avinu, you think that the last 35 years of your life were caused from misery. You think that it took away from your keeping of the mitzvahs. But you yourself, Yaakov said at the beginning of last week's Parsha, you sent the message. Thank you very much. You sent the message to your father-in-law. You sent the message to your brother. And you told him, Asa, you think you're going to get a man who's been wrecked over the last 21 years? You think you're going to find a man who's been weakened over 21 years? That you're going to one-up me? No, you should know, in love and Garti, I lived with Lavan for 21 years. Utariag mitzvah shemarti, I kept every single mitzvah. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yaakov, don't you understand? The mitzvahs that a person keeps under the most difficult conditions are the most valuable and precious mitzvahs that a person will keep. You're asking to have a life of peace and tranquility. Why would I take away your schar? Why would I take away your reward? The ultimate reward is in the world to come. The work takes place here in this world, which means the more that a person has to be meiser nefesh, the more that they have to push themselves, the more that they have to struggle, the more difficult that it is to be able to perform a mitzvah, to come to a shir. Look at the hundreds of people that came to the shir tonight. In the frigid, cold weather of Los Angeles, California, it's 47 degrees outside. How couldn't you leave the house in Los Angeles tonight? I remember when I first moved to LA 15 years ago, I was coming from Baltimore, and in Baltimore, we used to like the cold weather. We'd walk around in the snow without jackets. It was invigorating. And the first year that I was here, it was winter in LA. It was 63 degrees one day. And there's a woman in the store wearing a full-length mink coat. And I couldn't help myself but laugh. What is she wearing a mink coat for? Because when your system is not used to the cold is really cold. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Yaakov Avinu, if your system is already used to working hard, it's already used to the lachat, it's already used to the cold, to the hot, to the heat, to the stress, to the pressure, then you got to keep going. Because that is what is going to make you into the best Yaakov Avinu in the world. If you take it easy right now, you're going to lose out on all of the reward, all of the growth that you're going to be able to make in the future. In last week's parsha, there was the beautiful verse of Yaakov Avinu saying, "Ketaiti mikol hachasadim," I've been made small by all of the chesed, all the acts of kindness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that you did for me. And it always reminds me of about 6 years ago when Yonatan Razel was here for Shabbos. About 6 years ago already? Be'erich, about 6 years ago. And it was that Parsha, Parshas Vayishlach of last week. And he told us that his grandfather told him once, Yonatan, if you ever write a song about me, he said, I want you to write the song to the words, that just like Yaakov said that I was made small by all of your acts of kindness, because I came I came over the river with just a makkah, with just a staff in my hand, and now I have shnei machanos, now I have 2 big encampments, I have 2 wives or 4 wives and 12 children, so I had nothing, and now I have everything. So his grandfather told him, and I want to tell you the reason why that's my song. He said that when the war broke out, World War II, and the Nazis came in, they rounded up all of the people in their town. So they threw them onto the cattle cars. And the conditions were abhorrent. We know already from many stories. And the cattle car was running, and he said there was one little window in the cattle car that through that window you could see that there's a world out there. Light would come in, air would come in, the sun would come in, the moon was there. But that was our only window to civilization. And people were in the car, people were dying, the conditions were horrible. And as the train is going through the night, I noticed that every once in a while the train would slow down, go for a little while slow, and then suddenly it would begin to go fast again. And I wondered, what is that slowing down? So the next time the train started slowing down, I got myself up to see out the window, and I saw that the train was coming around a bend, and there's a mountainside and a drop like that. And I realized to myself, my only chance of salvation is if when the train goes around the bend, I jump out the window and I jump onto the mountainside to save my life. Maybe I'll die from the impact, maybe I'll break some of my bones, but if I stay on this train, which is heading towards Auschwitz or one of the other concentration camps, almost 90% sure that I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to survive. So he says, the next time the train comes around the bend, I walked over to the window. My heart was racing. And I tell myself, jump, jump. But I couldn't do it. And it began to go once again around the bend. And I get there a second time. And I come to the window and I start waiting and I start getting the courage. And I tell myself, jump, go out the window, jump. And I can't do it. And the train car starts going through the night. And finally, the 3rd time around, the train is coming around the bend. And I said, this is my last chance. I climb up through the window. I leap out the window. I fly out of the train. I land on the mountainside. I see he broke his arm immediately. But he lived. And he pulled himself together. And he climbed down the mountainside. He ended up in the forest. And in the forest, he met other partisans and other people that were there. And he ended up surviving the duration of the war. After the war was over, he said he came to Eretz Yisrael with just a shirt on his back. Not religious, but he had the shirt on his back. He gets there, he meets his wife, they get married. He says they have a son. No one's religious. That son goes on and gets married and has children. One of his children is Yonatan Razel. The other one is, the other son is Shlomo. I forget what the other son's name is. Anyway, Yonatan Razel becomes a Baal Tshuva. His brother becomes a Baal Tshuva. The Makar, the father and the mother, they become Baal Tshuva. And the grandparents, who are not religious, are watching as an entire family becomes religious. And he says, I came to Eretz Yisrael with nothing but a shirt on my back. At the end of the day, my whole family is religious. I have children and grandchildren going in the ways of Hashem and His Torah and His mitzvahs. Ketoiti mikol chasadim, I've been made small by all of the chesed that you did, Hashem. I came to this country with nothing, and I'm walking away with millions in the ruchnius and the bracha that you gave me. And sure enough, when his grandfather passed away, he wrote a beautiful song. So you have to remember, he's playing the piano and he's telling the story, and then he goes into the song itself. It was very powerful. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Yaakov Avinu, why do you want peace? Why do you want an easy life? An easy life is not for the Jewish people. An easy life is not what we're striving for in this world. Look, as it says in the pasuk, La'amal yulad ha'adam. Man was created for amelis. He was created to work hard. He was created to push himself. He was created to get squeezed down by the Rebbeinu Shalom and do something that he can't accomplish any other way. And therefore, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I cannot allow you to have peace and tranquility, and therefore, Kavsalav Roigesh Yosef. Suddenly, who wasn't expecting, Yosef was supposed to just live a good life, follow in his father's footsteps, become the leader of Klal Yisrael. No, Yosef has misery after misery after misery, because Yaakov had to go through more struggles and more challenges in life. Yosef also had to go through his struggles and his challenges made Yosef HaTzadik, but Lemaisa, it was response to Yaakov Avinu. Hanukkah is the struggle between Yavam and Klal Yisrael. Rav Shlomo Brevne in his Sefer about Hanukkah, when he goes to the prayer of the Ala Nisim, he points out that if you'd ask the world at large, what do you think about the Greeks? They were good people? What do you think about the Greeks? So pretty much guaranteed, almost about 99% of the Western world would say the Greeks, they're incredible. They gave us culture, they gave us art, they gave us entertainment, they gave us sports, they gave us gladiators, they gave us astronomy and philosophy, they gave us so much. Where would we be without the Greeks? However, if you look inside the Ala Nisim, you will see that the Jewish people don't say the same thing about the Greeks. We call it how it is. And we say the following words about the nation of Yavam. As it says in the Ala Nisim, we say the following words. We say, when the wicked nation of Yavam stood up against Klal Yisrael, to make us forget about our Torah, and to make us transgress the mitzvahs of Hashem. However, in your ultimate mercy, you stood by our side, so on and so forth, and we ended up winning the battle. Says Rav the Klal Yisrael doesn't see the glory and the beauty of the Greeks. They don't see all of the technology and all of the innovative ideas and creativity of them. They see one thing. Yavan, the Greeks, Harasha, they were wicked. Why were they wicked? Because their ideologies and their hypotheses and their philosophies of the meaning of life is exactly the opposite of what Klal Yisrael believes in. Klal Yisrael believes in that you work hard and you will end up reaping the reward in the world to come. Klal Yisrael believes that this world is a world for la'aseisim to do u'lamachal l'kavasfar. Klal Yisrael believes that we're like olives, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to squash us down and He's going to squeeze out all the beautiful players that are inside of us. Klal Yisrael believes that mitzvahs are what our life is all about, and it's not always easy. It requires mesiras nefesh and hard work and things that are not so easy for a person to do. It's all true. Yavan is the exact opposite. Yavan is the Shakespearean, a nation that says, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you shall die. As one of the girls in my class in Beis Yaakov told me today, YOLO. You know that? He knows. YOLO. You only live once. YOLO, you only live once. Since that you only live once, you might as well live it up. There's no world to come. There's no din. There's no judgment that you're going to have to face with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're not going to have to answer for all the actions that you did and that you didn't do and explain yourself and absolve yourself of the mistakes. YOLO, you only live once. So if you only live once, you might as well live it up the way that you want. Just like the Greeks said, it's all about the body. It's about the pleasure. It's about society. It's about becoming the most humanistic person in this world that you can possibly become. That's the opposite of Klal Yisrael. The total opposite of Klal Yisrael. We take the focus off the body. We take the focus off the pleasure of this world. We take the focus off of everything we can accomplish in the Gashmi of this world. Yes, you need Gashmis, and yes, you have pleasures. Kodesh Baruch Hu made the world in such a way, but we use them as a way to be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if we're using them for the sake of the pleasure itself, that's the opposite of why HaKadosh Baruch Hu made such a world like that. As the Rambam writes in Hilchos Tshuva, Hisavu kol Yisrael niviehem v'chachameihem. All of the tzaddikim of all the neviim of Klal Yisrael and the wise men were misav. They had a taiva. What is their taiva? What is their desire? Yumois hamelech haMashiach. The taiva of a Jew is from Mashiach. Why is that our taiva? Says the Rambam, Kadesh Yanuchu Mimalchus HaRasha, so that the wicked kingdom that resides over us will be nullified. They don't let us in this world learn the way that we would want to. And when Mashiach will come, that's when you'll have the peace. That's when you'll have the tranquility. That's when there won't be things that are riding on you, trying to prevent you and stopping you from doing the mitzvah you want to do. But until that time arrives, the world is for hard work. Yavin doesn't believe in hard work. Torah is hard work. Mitzvahs is hard work. And they came, as we say in the Alanisim, they came to darken our eyes and to take all of that away from us and told us to become like them. Becoming like them means live it up because you only live once. It's all about this world. It's all about the pleasures, and you can have it all. And the Torah says that you can only have it all if you use it in the right way. All of the mitzvahs in the Torah revolve mostly in the physical world. There aren't many mitzvahs which are only spiritual. Maybe Amunah, you think that you believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so you get a mitzvah believing in Hashem. Maybe Avas Hashem, you love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you think about how much you love Hashem, even without saying a single word, you get a mitzvah of loving Hashem. But if you think about the majority of all the mitzvahs in the Torah, they're all physical things. Putting on tefillin is a physical mitzvah, giving tzedakah is a physical mitzvah, shaking a little bit is a physical, procreating is a physical mitzvah, everything, eating matzah and Pesach, eating kosher food, everything is physical. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to be so close to him, why does he make all the mitzvahs in such a physical manner? Because that's the point. HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed us in this world because this is the world where we can serve him and this is the world we can do the mitzvahs. And we elevate the Gashmi, we elevate the physicality by transferring and by transporting ourselves into a person that's going to do mitzvahs with all of the physical that there is. There's nothing wrong with eating as long as you eat in the right way. There's nothing wrong with smelling as long as you smell in the right way. There's nothing wrong with talking as long as you talk in the right way. There's nothing wrong with relations, intimate relations, as long as it's in the right way with the right person at the right time, so on and so forth. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us everything. Every pleasure under the sun can be utilized as a way to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Yavanim, it drove them crazy that was the credo, and that's the hashkafa, that's the outlook of the Jewish people, and therefore they tried to destroy us. Says the Tefillah, our prayer, they're Yavan Harashah. We're the only ones who understand that their lifestyle is really wicked. Because a person who wants just to enjoy the world and have peace in this world and just live it up, they will never be able to get to the place that they should be able to get to. I heard a Maisa very recently about a very chashuv Rosh Kollel in Eretz Yisrael who lived in Bnei Brak, and he used to go once a week to travel to Netanya to give a shir. And one of these weeks that he was going to Netanya, he had inside of his pocket of his coat an envelope with 9,720 shkalim. Why did he have so much money? Rosh Kollel don't normally have so much money. Why did he have so much money? Talking about $3,000 almost, because he owed money to the school where his son was learning, to the yeshiva, and he was going, after he would finish giving the shir in Netanya, he was going to go back to Bnei Brak and he was going to pay the yeshiva for his son's education. So he's got the money. He goes to Netanya. He delivers his magnificent shir. I think he had a few more people than we have over here. He was delivering his magnificent shir. And then he went back to the bus. Apparently the bus from Netanya to Bnei Brak is the 613 bus. He gets on the bus, and as he walks on, he is hit by this sweltering heat. The air conditioning was not working on this bus. So if anybody knows the air quality, as you get closer to Bnei Brak, you know that it's very humid, extremely uncomfortable, and it was unbearable in the bus. So he takes off his hat, and he takes off his jacket. He folds up his jacket, and in the buses, the Egged buses, there's like a little rack over the seats. He puts his jacket and his hat on top of the rack. Now, unbeknownst to him, as he tossed the jacket to the top, the envelope slid out of his pocket. He doesn't know. The envelope with all of the money that he had saved and scrimped and saved for all those months slipped out. Finally, they get into Bnei Brak. He reaches up to grab his jacket. He puts on his jacket. He puts on his hat. And he walks out the streets, and he's heading on his way to the yeshiva to go and pay for his son's education. He reaches into his pocket just to feel, to make sure that he's got the money. And suddenly he realizes his pocket is empty. 9,720 shekel in an envelope with no name, with no siman, with no sign on it. He has no way to even prove really to anyone that that envelope belongs to him. And how in the world is he going to find it and get it back? His mind starts swimming in the horror of the moment of what is taking place. And he says, what was I thinking? I have so much money, I just stored up on, where did it go? And as he's walking down the street trying to figure out what he's going to do with himself, his phone rings. And he answers the phone, and it's one of his talmidos, one of his students, a young lady. And she says, Rabbi, I really need to speak to you. So his mind right now is in searching for the money. And he's about to tell the young lady, it's not really a good time for me right now. I've got too much going on. But then he said he remembered a vort. He remembered a drush he once heard in the name of Elya Lopian. And Rabbi Elya Lopian says that there is a parsha that we have in the Torah called Negoyim. Negoyim is if a person gets saras, so the first place that it hits is the house. First place it is the walls of the house. And one of the ways that you get rid of the Negoyim, you get rid of the blemishes, is you have to knock down the walls of the house to get rid of them. But the Torah says over there, what happens when you knock down the walls of the house? What do you find? There are oitzos, there are like treasures that are stuffed away in the walls of the house, and you can end up becoming a very rich person by breaking the walls of the house and end up getting this money for yourself. Says Rabbi Elya Lopian, what is the breaking down of the walls of the house? It's a message to the person that whatever it is that you did that caused you to get saras, that caused you to get these blemishes and these lesions, you had a rutz and you had a desire to do something that was wrong. You have to break your personal desires, your personal rutz and your personal will, in order to be able to bring out the oitzos, to get the best treasures that there are inside of you and the biggest brachos from Hashem. So as he's about to say no to this young student of his, he remembers that the purpose in life is to break your own selfish desires. And he says to his student, yes, how can I help you? So she says, I was read a shidduch, a certain young man, and I don't know if I should say yes or not. And I was hoping that Rebbe, you'd be able to clarify things for me. Maybe you'd be able to look into it a little bit. Maybe you could help me out. So once again, he starts feeling the heart pounding that he lost all of his money. What's he going to do? And he's about to say, I just can't do it. And then he says to the girl, okay, give me the name and give me a couple of references. I'll make a few calls. So she gives him the name of the boy, the name of the yeshiva he's learning in, a couple of references. He hangs up with the girl. He makes a few calls. He doesn't like what he hears. And he calls the girl back and he says, you know what? I don't think it's for you. It doesn't look like it's your shit. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to tell you, but I don't think it's for you. She says, Rebbe, why are you sorry? I'm happy. Why should I waste my time, get all the emotional energy involved in it there? Why should I go out with a person that's not for me? Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You just saved me a headache. He says, you know what? He said, I want to tell you two things. She says, oh no, and then the girl says herself, now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to daven for my zivug. This is not the one. I'm going to daven for the right one. So her Rebbe says, please do me a favor. While you're in the midst of davening for your own partner in life, I want you to know what just happened to me. He said, I just lost an envelope with 9,720 shkalim inside of it. I was supposed to pay my son's yeshiva. I don't have it. I don't know where it is. I lost it somewhere on the bus. He said, do me a favor. I was going to say no to you when you called and asked because I'm so tired. I'm so mabubal. I'm so bothered by it. But I took the phone and I wanted to help you. Do me a favor. Please, daven, that a Kodesh Baruch should make a miracle over here, and somehow, some way, I'll find the envelope unmarked with all of my money to be able to pay the yeshiva. The girl said, of course, Rebbe. My pleasure. They hang up the phone. The girl is learning in seminary in Bnei Brak, and she's settling down for bed. And before she gets fully comfortable in bed, she gets a call from her parents. And they told her, listen, we know you're probably getting ready for bed, but we need you back at home. We need you in the morning for something. Can you please come back to Netanya tonight and be with us in the house? She's a good girl. Kibbud Avayim trumps everything. She gets her things together. She runs down to the bus stop and she jumps onto the 6:13 bus from Bnei Brak to Netanya. She has her little backpack with her. She throws it on the top of the board over there on the top. She goes from Bnei Brak all the way to Netanya. As she's getting off the bus, she reaches up to grab her bag, and instead of grabbing the bag, her hand slides under the bag, and she feels an envelope. And she begins feeling around. And she pulls the envelope down, and she's looking at this white envelope, and she realizes there is a treasure inside it here. And she begins thinking to herself, didn't my Rebbe say that he lost an envelope of money somewhere between the Tanya and Bnei Brak? She opens up the envelope. She remembers that it was 9,720 shkalim. She opens it up. She counts 1, 2, 3, 9,705. No, 9,720 shkalim to the dot, to the penny. She calls her Rebbe. She says, Rebbe, you won't believe it. I have your envelope. I have the money. It's in my hands. Tomorrow, when I come back to Bnei Brak, I will bring it to you. So Rav Bronk, who told over this story, he said, imagine for one moment if the Rebbe, when he was so hurt, he was so overwhelmed by the loss of the money, when he received the call of this young girl, this student, if he would have given in to all of the pain that he was going through, and he would have said, I can't talk right now. Imagine what would happen. He went on and helped her with the shidduch. She would have maybe gone back that night. Who knows? She would have gone. She would not have gone. Even if she would have found the envelope, she would never know who that money belonged to. But because he broke his ruts and his desires, he gave up on him, he gave up his own precious, or he gave up his own difficulties for the sake of somebody else. And he allowed himself to get squeezed down like the olives and let the Shemen Zayzach, the pure olive oil, come out. He was able to help this young lady. And mitzvah goreres, mitzvah, one mitzvah brings about another mitzvah. Mida keneged mida, measure for measure. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you broke yourself. You squeezed out yourself. You were able to push away the problems you had to help somebody else out. I'll take care of you. You have nothing to worry about. Chazal are telling us over here that Yaakov Avinu was being commanded by the Ribono Shel Olam that your success is measured in this world specifically by how hard you have to work. Your growth in Torah and your growth in mitzvahs and your growth in ruchnius only is going to be a possibility if you are going through the struggles of a Yaakov Avinu. Like it says in last week's Parsha, like it says that when Yaakov battles with the angel, so it says that the Sarisa, because you battled with this angel, Elohim, therefore, and you Besuchal and you won, so we're going to call you now Yisrael. Your name now is Yisrael. And the famous question that everybody asks is, you're calling him Yisrael. Yisrael is the name of the struggling. It's not the name of the winning or the victory. So the Sfas Emes and others point out that because that's the nature of Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael is not about the victory. Klal Yisrael is not about what we gain. It's not about the victory itself. Klal Yisrael is about the wrestling and the battle that we will go through. And if a Jew is always working and they're struggling and they're pushing and they're working hard, then you know that you're growing. When a person is going downhill in the bicycle, like the famous t-shirt says, downhill, easy. You know you're going uphill if you're working hard. And if you're working hard in Torah, and you're working hard in mitzvahs, and you're working hard in fixing your midos, and you're working hard in chesed, and you're working hard in Yiras Shamayim, then you know that you're growing in the right direction. So Yaakov tried, he bargained, and he requested from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that his life should be a bit easier than it had been. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, Yaakov, you don't understand. All of your success that makes you the greatest forefather of all, that gave you these 12 tribes that were coming from you, it's all because you were the one who was constantly under the pressure and getting squeezed down. As Hanukkah comes, the only way that we know that we beat the Yavanim is if we will be the people that will fight against the Yavanim in our generation. Which means that I'm sure that everybody has at least one mitzvah in their repertoire that has not really made it into their repertoire in the right way. And that means that if there's something that you have been struggling with for 1 year, for 2 years, for 5 years, for 10 years, however long it is, Chanukah is the time you can be a gibor, that you can be a very strong person, and you can say, Yavin would want me not to work on this mitzvah. Yavin would tell me, well, if it's too hard for you, we don't want you to be uncomfortable in this world. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Klal Yisrael is different. Klal Yisrael does work hard. Klal Yisrael does push themselves. Klal Yisrael does get the courage up to be able to take on things that we've never taken on before. So Hanukkah is a time to be valiant, like the Maccabees, not the Maccabees basketball or the beer or the Olympics. That's not who the Maccabees were. The Maccabees is Mem Chav Beis Yud. Mi Chamoicha Be'elim Hashem. Yeah, Mi Chamoicha Be'elim Hashem. Who is like you in the heights? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means the Maccabees were able to see that it's all about fighting for the sake and the glory of the Ribono Shel Olam. We should find the inner strength that we are not always so aware of during the months of the year, but during Kislev, it's all there illuminating itself in the lights of the menorah. And Be'ez Hashem, if we do it in the right way, we'll be okay, even if life is challenging. Not only will we be okay, we'll realize that's what makes us who we are. Every period of time in the Jewish people, always our success is always preempted by the struggles that we have to go through in every generation, all throughout Tanakh. You see, like that, all throughout the Torah is like that. All the others, all the great people, Moshe, everybody, they only became who they were because they went through the trials that they did. May we be zeichem Yetz Hashem, that Hashem doesn't have to give us trials and tribulations, but whatever it is that we do have to go through, we have to realize that that is what itself is giving us the koyach to be the people that we could be, and that itself is the victory over Yavan, and that is the real simcha of Chanukah. The simcha of Chanukah is when we know that we are doing things to live a life that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is going to be pleased with. And if it's a life that Hashem is pleased with, then we can be pleased ourselves. If we're doing things that we know that Hashem is not pleased with, Chanukah is the time to fight the battles, to fight the war against Yavan HaRashah, against the YOLO generation over here, that you only live once, you eat today, drink, be merry, and then tomorrow you die. No, that's where we're living today. Because yes, in the Machar, in the end of 100 years, we will leave this world, but we'll take all of the great schus and all the tremendous merits and the mitzvahs and the Torah and the growth that we had in this world, we'll take it with us, and we'll sing and dance into the world to come. The essence Hashem Yisbarach.